Today's topic is going to be about Steel joining Team Liquid. This is an interesting shuffle. Well, technically, all of Liquid's shuffles have been interesting and dramatic, but there are a lot of different things to analyze here, so I'll just get into it. So, Stanislaw, after iBuy Power Masters, was kicked from Team Liquid or left or something like that, and in his place, Steel has joined the team. And this is an interesting move for a variety of reasons. The first is you get it from Stanislaw's point of view. It is Sweet Longer. It's very insightful, and obviously a change from when he left Optic, because he clearly realized he wanted his opinion out there. He didn't want people assuming why he did or what he did. So basically, from his point of view, he felt like Liquid already had a leader in Zeus, and he and Zeus didn't have the same opinion about how to run a team. So eventually, like, some things worked a bit, like the Mykonos after like the major Krakow major break, Mykonos and ESL New York. That was a good run with the shifts and rules, but eventually, like, Stanislaw was phased out as a player. Individually, he wasn't doing well. I will say positionally, he was actually doing fairly well as a lurker. Like, he would get in the right positions at the right times, but like mechanically speaking, in hitting the shots, he wasn't that good, which is weird. Because if that's the case, or because I think that's the case, I think that's like an obvious place where Liquid could have improved. As long as Stanislaw started hitting those shots, it would have been great, but it never worked out that way. And unfortunately, too many losses in a row. Close losses, admittedly, but still losses. E-League, Epicenter, iBuy Power Masters, and that's too many in a row. Just because if you look at it from like the overall average, you have two good events in Mykonos and ESL New York, and then three events where you go out in groups. And yeah, there are two events where you go out in groups, and then iBuy Power Masters. And like, yeah, the two events where they go out in groups are hard. But if you have the ambition and you believe you are a team that can be like a top 4, top 5 team, potentially a championship contending team, as I thought they were, then that should have been the goal. And that many losses in a row was probably unacceptable if that's where you believe you should be headed. And so somebody had to get kicked, and obviously the internal issues were a big part of that. In terms of as a player, even Stanislaw admits like he wasn't good, like he completely deserved it. So Stanislaw is out. I will say, I think Stanislaw himself, I think there was real potential in there, just because positionally it was so good for bits of his lurking, and he didn't really have all that much time to go back to that old style where he was on Optic, but we'll have to see. So Stanislaw is kicked. As a move, I think that's the only choice Liquid could have made. Elysian Twist, the best players, you don't kick them. Nitro, finally entry fragging, obviously the leader, you can't kick him at this point. JDM, are there better oppers in NA? I think so. But is it enough to justify kicking him? Not yet, at least. Like, he's consistent enough for me to be as like a third star on this team. My only big issue with JDM right now is, actually there's a few. His rifles are obviously aren't as good, but the bigger problem is like his CT side overpass opping is particularly like mediocre. So if you just look at the way Liquid have created their map pool in the Stanislaw lineup, Nuke and Cash were at the very bottom, but because of that, you're inevitably going to be playing overpass in the mid range a lot, and that's pretty bad for Liquid. Just because if you end up on overpass, that means that JDM will likely have no impact on that particular game, because his T side opping is generally not that good, except for Inferno, I believe, and maybe Mirage. But beyond those two maps, like overpass, obviously not that great of a op map for T side. And then on CT side, not that, like I said, not very. I've never seen him play very well on that map in this Liquid roster, so that's out too. So it's very It's very bad, and I feel like they should. I feel like if I feel like that's like the big concern right now I have for JDM. But is it enough to justify a kick? I don't think so. I think you just shift the the map pool, so you start playing nuke again, you start playing cash again, and sometimes you play overpass against weaker teams. I think that's a more viable strategy. So, overall, I'd say Stanislav was the correct kick. Now, who is the correct pickup? Because obviously, Liquid went with Steel, but there are a few other choices, I think. For instance, there were some rumors that CLG was having internal issues, but nobody on that team is very would fit the role you're looking for in Stanislaw. Not necessarily because you already have star players. So do you need another young star player in Ethan? Not really. Do you need another opper? No. So there's nobody, and beyond that is FNS. You already have a leader. Cutler, he's on the way out. He's not very good right now. So that's out. Nobody on Cloud9 showing up. Dignitas, I think Rubino is pretty good, supportive type player, but he's not moving out of Norway, so that's a no-go. Kiyoshima speaks English, very good role player. Currently, would he move out of France? Would he move out of Europe? I don't think so. Not with the not what I know generally of European players. The other choice might have been Pimp. I know Pimp's not on the team right now, but obviously they already tried that, so that's a no-go. So, in terms of who's available, who speaks English, I think Steel's by far the best choice, and so that's the. But there's a caveat to that, in that Steel doesn't play at all like Stanislav. So if you use my resource like management, like the Dota 2 model for CS:GO, the old model for the Stanislav lineup is like Elige is 1, Twist is 2, JDM 3, Nitro is a 4, and then Stanislav is a 4. In this current one, everything's the same except Steel's like a 5, and that's obviously because Steel's a very team oriented player. He played on Immortals where like they're all super loose, and him and Bolts were like trying to patchwork basic team play and structure into the team so that the other guys could go wild, so to speak. So in that sense, he's a good player. The problem is like Stanislav was playing the Lurker, and there's a reason Stanislav ended up playing the Lurker instead of Nitro and Twist, and that's because both of them are too. Here's the thing. Stanislav as a Lurker positionally was better than Nitro or Twist was when those two played it, or have played it. At least that's my personal opinion, even though mechanically, obviously, they're much better shots than Stanislav. So that's my biggest concern right now, is if they play this, like, if they do 4-1s, who's going to be the Lurker, so to speak? Because I feel like you're just hurting your actual hit if you have Nitro or Twist do it. Obviously, maybe, and that's not Leech's natural role, it's not JDM's natural role, it's not Steel's natural role. There's nobody that can play that wing role on the T side for them. So that's like a big like question mark for me. I feel like their City side, it should be fine. I feel like Steel's been fairly good for Immortals when that was still a team. So overall, that's the big question mark going forward into the Liquid roster. Who's going to be the Lurker? Are they just going to split it between Nitro and Twist? But if they do that, like they're like the way the actual hit execute works out, like in the old roster, that made it so fantastic was like Nitro had fucking crazy first bullet aim, but then so does Twist. So that's like a huge 1-2 combo. But if you move one of them off, all of a sudden you lose like half your firepower in the initial hit. But I guess you can move Elige up into the second in and have one of the elite Nitro or Twist first in, and that works too, because Elige did play that role for a while, so we'll have to see. As for Stanislav, that's the other part of the equation. Where should he go? I think the two obvious choices are Cloud9. If they want to kick somebody, I'm going to go ahead and guess they are not going to kick somebody, especially considering their i.e., an Oakland result, even if they lose out now. I think that's. I think they'll be fine with that. I think they're fine with their roster currently, so Stanislav can't go there. As for the other one, I think Optic is. They need a fucking leader, and Stanislav is a leader. As for who to kick, I think the two primary choices are HS or Freiburg. I haven't watched enough Optic games to know which one to pick. I'm guessing HS, just because you need another like mind in the game, and Freiburg is much more experienced, because beyond that, you have Alu's an opper, like he's not really gonna be a guy who's giving like secondary calls. Magus, young player, Mixwell, like hybrid player, like another hybrid start. Like I feel like you need another veteran player in there with you to create a level of structure. So my pick would be to keep Freiburg and kick HS, but I don't really know. I don't watch enough Optic games to come to a good conclusion about that. But I think that's the obvious pickup for Optic, because I need an in-game leader, and Stanislaw is an in-game leader. Beyond that, I guess maybe one of the European teams could throw a lot of money to try to get him over, like maybe Godsent, or I guess you can go with Mouse, but it's not like he fits the roles in Mouse very well, because they're so. Well, we'll have to see. And beyond that, there is one last interesting caveat point to all this. It's actually similar to the SK Phelps Bolt situation. Is the fact that the major system it's so restrictive. It's so restrictive now when you're considering the fact that buyouts and contracts are so crazy. So when you do make a roster change, you don't have time to wait around for the contract to end, because you're wasting so much. You're wasting so much time. So for the major cycle to end, and obviously like somebody else could just pick up that player while you're like twiddling your thumbs or whatever. So I think that definitely needs a revision in the rule set. So we'll have to see if they do it for the next major cycle. Obviously, it's too late for this one since this one's already started. But those are all my thoughts about the Stanislaw Steel Liquid situation. See you guys later.